Hello, I'm Teacher Robin. Welcome to another live streaming class. If this is your first time to watch a class, let me explain how you can participate. So as I am teaching the class, you can participate by writing in the comments. So if you have a question or something that you want to share, feel free to write it and I'll be checking your comments as we go along. Today our topic is punctuation. So we're going to talk about the different kinds of punctuation and how to use them correctly. So this is really important if you want to improve your writing skills in English. Okay, so let's start with the different kinds of punctuation and how to use them correctly. Okay, the most common one obviously is the period. We also call this a full stop because we use it to end a logical and complete thought. So when you are finished with your thought, you put a period, and that way people know that, that it's the end and that it's the end of a thought or an idea. Okay, periods can also be used for abbreviations and numbers. For example, Mrs. here, this is an abbreviation, so we put a period at the end. Or AM or PM, which means morning or evening, we have a period between the two. Or for example, with numbers like 13.56, we can also say point instead of period when we're using numbers, and we use this here to stand for a decimal. Okay, so another kind of punctuation is the comma. Now, I think sometimes people tend to overuse the comma in English, but basically we use the comma to show breathing spaces. And by breathing spaces, what I mean is if you were reading a text out loud, it's the point where you should take a breath and continue talking. So you don't read the entire sentence without breathing. The comma kind of marks where you should stop for a second. Okay, so a comma also separates blocks of thought or logical groupings. So you may have several within a sentence and all of these are separated by a comma. So for example, we use commas when we are making a list of things. Let's look at a sentence. For lunch, I had fish, salad, potatoes, and apple pie. Okay, so here we separate each of the things in the list by a comma, and then the very last thing we put an and before that. So here we have potatoes and apple pie, and this comma here is not always used between the next to last and the last item, but if you do use it, it's called the Oxford comma. So this comma right here before the last item, you can use it or you don't have to, but to avoid confusion, it's actually a good idea to use this final comma. Okay, another way that we use the comma is to enclose details. So look at this example. George, my Scottish friend, loves to go running. So here we enclose details because actually we could remove this information, the my Scottish friend part. It's not essential to the sentence. We could still say George loves to go running, and it makes sense. But if we include extra information, we put it between a comma. So my Scottish friend is extra information. Okay, I see several people are joining us already. Andrea, Ismael, Sondos, Aliyah, and Umi, say hello. Okay, thanks for watching, and be sure to write your questions in the comments. Okay, let's look at another form of punctuation, the question mark. Okay, this one is a bit more straightforward. Anytime we ask a question in English, we need to put a question mark at the end of it. So for example, what is your name? Question mark. One thing to remember though, this is a bit more advanced, but when we use reported questions or reported speech, we do not use a question mark. So let's see an example. He asked me what my name was. Okay, so this is the reported form of this question. What is your name is asked by a person, so he in this case. So in reported speech, he asked me what my name was is a statement and not a question. Even though you were reporting a question, we do not include a question mark. Okay, now let's talk about the exclamation point. I think this is another form of punctuation that can be overused, especially in text messaging, things like that, because it expresses emotion. It expresses surprise, strong emotion, or determination. So for example, I can't believe it. Look out. there's a car coming. Okay, so see here, the exclamation goes with look out because you're warning someone, but then the rest of the information, there's a car coming, does not have an exclamation point. Okay, so it's important to not overuse this form of punctuation because then it actually loses its meaning. If every sentence you write has an exclamation point at the end of it, it sounds like you're happy all the time or you're really excited about something. So be careful when you use the exclamation point and really only use it when you want to express a very strong emotion. Okay, the colon. This one can be a little bit confusing, but it marks basically a division in the sentence followed by a list or some sort of further elaboration. So look at this example. Peter enjoys all kinds of sports. Okay, this by itself is a sentence. Peter enjoys all kinds of sports. But if you want to elaborate, if you want to add extra detail, okay, what kinds of sports does Peter enjoy? Okay, so here you have a list. Golf, skiing, tennis, and badminton. Okay, so here we put a colon at the end of the first sentence, of the main sentence, and then we add this extra information in the form of a list. Okay, and now the semicolon. Okay, so this is different from the colon. The colon has 2 points, and the semicolon is a point and a comma. Okay, this is used to join sentences that are linked without having to use a conjunction. So instead of adding and between the two sentences, for example, you can join them with a semicolon. And this actually works better because then your sentence doesn't go on forever, talking about the breathing points and things like that. Okay, it can be used instead of commas to separate items in a list that contain commas as well. So look at this example. I have an exam tomorrow. I can't go out tonight. So these are actually two separate sentences, but one kind of depends on the other because why can't you go out tonight? Because I have an exam tomorrow. You could also say, I have an exam tomorrow, so I can't go out tonight. That's like a conjunction. But another way to do it is to separate them with this semicolon. Okay, the apostrophe. So apostrophe has two different uses, for contractions and for the possessive. Okay, so a contraction is a shortened form of two words. So let's see a couple examples here. I would in its contracted form is I'd, so you do I apostrophe D for short, and then it is in the short version, in the contracted form, is its, IT apostrophe S. Okay, so this is most often used in informal language. So if you're writing a formal paper or something, you should use the entire, the full form. Don't use contractions, but if you're just writing an email to a friend or something like that, then you might want to save time and space and use contractions. Okay, and the other way is the possessive. So, for example, when we want to express possession, we use an apostrophe S. Okay, so my sister's car, okay, so this car belongs to my sister, or Jenny's coat, the coat belongs to Jenny. Okay, so we use the apostrophe S to show possession. All right. Quotation marks. This is another kind of punctuation. We use quotation marks to cite something that was said by someone exactly. So if you want to use someone's exact words, you use quotation marks. So for example, I'm leaving at 7 p.m., she said. So when we quote someone, basically we put whatever they said between these quotation marks. So specifically she said, I'm leaving at 7 p.m. Then we put a comma between the last word and the quotation mark, and then we add the information of who said it. So she said, he said, Robin said, etc. Okay, so this is how we quote someone. And we can also use quotation marks for bibliographic references. So if you write a paper for the university, for example, you will have to cite your references. So you'll use quotation marks when you want to reference those books or articles or magazines or whatever it is that you're using in your paper. Okay, and finally, the ellipsis. Okay, so we use an ellipsis. This is 3 dots, dot, dot, dot. This is another form of punctuation that is either incorrectly used or overused in the English language because it represents, actually the correct way is to omit a word or a phrase or a line from a passage. So if you're quoting something but you don't want to use the entire phrase, you can use this ellipsis ... and the part that you've omitted is replaced by the ellipsis. So in this case, we have a quote. He said, I don't know, ... I'm not sure. So we understand from this that there is more text here between these two phrases, but it's not important to us. The most important part is that he said, I don't know, I'm not sure. So whatever is in between here, we replace with an ellipsis. An ellipsis can also be used sort of when you lose your train of thought, when you're thinking, or when you don't finish your sentence, you put a ... at the end of it. This is very commonly used now. But the most common, the most correct use of the ellipsis is this, when you're omitting a word or a phrase from a sentence. Okay, now I want you to practice what we've just learned. So all of these punctuation rules, I want you to choose 3 of them or more if you want, and write 3 sentences using the correct punctuation, or do your best, and I will correct them as we go along or later today if you want to keep writing them after the live class. Okay, so as you are doing that, think of some examples, write your examples in the comments. Let me tell you more about our course here at ABBA. So if you want to improve your punctuation, you can also do so with our course. We have an online course that is available in both web, tablet, and mobile versions, so you can study wherever you are. It's available from beginners to business level, so you have all the levels covered, and our course includes 144 units. So each unit consists of a short film, a video class explaining the grammar, and then exercises for you to practice all of your skills, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So all of that is covered in the course. If you want more information, you can go to abbaenglish.com and you can find all of the great things that we have to offer there. In addition to our course, we also are on all of the social media networks. You can find us on Facebook. Obviously, you're watching on Facebook right now. You can see us on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Instagram. So if you are on these channels already, check them because we add new content every day. You can learn something new every single day. So that's really good to have if you want to practice just a little bit. Okay, so let's see if anyone has asked a question. Okay, I see people are still thinking about it. I know it's kind of a difficult topic, but it's good to review, especially if you need to use written English, maybe for work, or if you live abroad, for example. So this is a good review for you to improve your writing skills. Let me tell you what we're talking about next week, how to comfort someone. So this is a little bit kind of different topic, but for example, if someone is sad, maybe a relative has died or a pet, or they're just not feeling very well, we're going to look at the different ways to politely comfort someone. What should we say to people in English in these situations? So we're going to look at that. Okay, so if there are no comments for the time being, I will continue checking throughout the day, so please keep writing. I hope this class has been useful for you, and I hope that you have a wonderful Easter holiday, and I'll see you next week talking about how to comfort someone. So take care and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.